I get asked so often whether or not I count calories, and I wanted to address that topic on here today. The short answer is no, but I wanted to explain why, especially as someone who has struggled with food in the past, and what I do instead to help keep me feeling healthy, balanced, and energized. For those of you that are new here, my name is Anna. I'm a 37-year-old mom of 4, and I'm in my second year of studying nutritional medicine. And I struggled for 15 years with issues around food and my body image until fully recovering 6 years ago. And now I'm really passionate about spreading the message on how to live a healthy lifestyle, which is balanced and also free from restriction. My experience with calorie counting started off very, very innocent. I was not very educated on what a calorie even was. I didn't really know anything about nutrition. I never studied it at school. I didn't do biology past 15. Really, my knowledge with nutrition came from what I would see in the media, on magazines, TV shows, pop culture, that kind of thing. Especially as a millennial growing up as a teenager in the 2000s, we had the internet, but our resources were really quite limited. We didn't have social media. We had things like gossip magazines, and women's magazines were pretty toxic back in those days with diet culture. And so that was kind of where I got my information. I was actually really lucky in that my mom was never a calorie counter. Like, she never ever did any of that. She was actually a really healthy role model in terms of food. She was very balanced about everything. She always cooked from scratch. So I really didn't find out about calories and calorie counting until I was a little bit older. It's probably also important to note that I have always been horrible at maths. I was terrible at maths at school, and I've just always hated numbers. So calorie counting in itself has always stressed me out, no matter what stage of life I've been at and no matter where I was at in my journey. It's just always made food into a maths equation, and I just instinctively don't like that. So I've never really been a huge fan, even when I was in my darkest of ED days. Having said that, I was, of course, aware, generally speaking, of how many calories were in X, Y, and Z. I mean, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure it out, but what I didn't have a lot of good education on is how not all calories are created equal. And that's something that I only understood probably when I started to study nutrition. Like, I remember when I was about 19, I had allocated myself probably something ridiculous, like 1,200 calories per day, which is insane. It's like what a toddler needs to eat. And I had filled that all up with junk food. And I remember feeling absolutely awful and just hungry all of the time. So I think I had worked out that I could have 4 biscuits or something like that at the end of the day. So I ate the 4 biscuits, and then I felt really, really hungry, and all I wanted was more. So I had a 5th and a 6th and a 7th, and then I had blown my calories for the day, and then that turned into a binge. And you can just imagine how the cycle progressed. A lot of my relationship with food was like that. And I remember in that moment realizing how toxic the calorie counting thing is. I remember feeling pretty hopeless in that moment and not really understanding how the calorie counting thing made sense, because how was it that I was eating the allocated amount for a woman of my size who wanted to lose weight, but I was still ravenous? So something there just isn't really fitting. And I didn't really understand the difference between, the same amount of calories from, say, whole foods like half an avocado versus 4 biscuits. I didn't know that one would be so much more satisfying than the other. I also, of course, didn't know about pairing up different food groups or sugar or anything like that. So now, knowing what I know obviously is so much better, and I feel more educated. But at the time, just like many others, we didn't know any better. So the reason why I don't personally love calorie counting, aside from the reasons that I've mentioned so far, is that it can be problematic for anyone who has struggled with food issues like myself. You can get obsessive over it. It can make food more stressful than it needs to be, and it really can turn into a maths problem, which nutrition and food should never be. I personally, like I said before, do not enjoy maths, but I am really passionate about nutrition. So for me, I don't really want the two to go hand in hand, because that just makes things a lot more stressful and a lot more complicated, honestly. Also with calorie counting, I feel it's a lot easier to undereat and also just obsess over numbers. Having said that, that does not mean that it's bad for everyone. I know that a lot of people out there do really well with calorie counting, and for them, it can be a source of reassurance. It can be something that keeps them on track. So of course, I do not speak for everybody when it comes to calorie counting. This is just my own experience. And I do think, like with everything, it's good to have a balance. I would never sit here and say that calories don't count, because they absolutely do. And it is a fact that there are calories in food. That is just a fact of life, right? You can't get away from that. What I'm saying is that I don't think it's necessary for everybody to obsess over the amount of calories that they're consuming in a day. While it can be helpful for some, there are certain people that just don't do well with it, and only you really know yourself what you can and can't get away with in terms of what's triggering and what's not. So that is something that you will have to figure out for yourself. For me, this is just what works. So I'm going to show you guys a way that you can ensure that you're getting the right portion sizes for you. And this is a method that I swear by because it's easy to use. You don't need a weighing scales. You don't need to get out a calculator and do all sorts of maths. You don't need to download an app or track anything. You literally just use your hand. So I'm going to show you how to portion out all of the food groups on your plate and how to ensure that you're getting the right amounts without any stress or fear. So I've just made my lunch and this is what my plate looks like, and I'm gonna talk you guys through how I portioned it out according to the model that I'm gonna teach you. On my plate, I've got minced beef. I just made up a big batch of beef. We do this usually once a week, just to have it on hand for lunches and things. Jonathan and I both like to eat it. Then I've got some leftover quinoa as well. And I've got a big hefty portion of salad. So I've got rocket, a bit of spinach, like baby spinach. I've got lots of veggies that I had in the fridge, like cucumber, tomato, celery, red pepper, and then I also added some kimchi. Seasoned everything with salt and pepper. And then I added a bit of balsamic vinegar, and for my healthy fats, a drizzle of olive oil. I also cooked the meat in some coconut oil, so that adds to the fat as well. And here is a better look at my plate. So as you can see, palm size of protein, fist size of carbs, and then half my plate is veggies. You wanna do about a thumb size of fat, so that kind of accounts for both. I probably did about a teaspoon of olive oil, but then I also cooked in coconut oil as well. All in all, it's probably about a thumb. I mean, this is like a rough estimation, but that is how I portion out my plate according to that model. And it's really easy. You don't have to weigh anything out. You don't have to count anything. It's just a good, healthy portion. What's also gonna really help, of course, and I mention this in almost every video, is to focus on whole foods. So the more whole foods that you eat, which basically a whole food, if you don't know, is just a food that is closest to its natural form. So foods that have minimal processing are whole foods, and these are gonna be the best for you. So if you try to stick to those at least 80 to 90% of the time, and then the other 20% of the time, of course, balance is key. I don't eat perfect 100% of the time. I don't believe that it is sustainable or normal. I think that we all should have fun. Life is too short to be super healthy all of the time. But so long as we're eating whole foods 80% of the time, and then 20% we can do a little fun foods as well, then you're pretty much golden, and that is a healthy, sustainable lifestyle. If you do this along with balancing your blood sugar, so keeping the 3 macronutrients on your plate every single time, carbs, protein, and fat, listen to your hunger cues and eat regularly, your metabolism is gonna work faster and better. You really can do no wrong. Zooming out to the bigger picture, also keep in mind that consistency is so much better than perfection. What I have found personally in my experience is that when you try to be perfect with your eating and try to eat 100% perfect all the time, which by the way does not exist, you just burn yourself out and you end up feeling too restricted and then blowing it all up with a binge. So it's so much more beneficial to be consistent with a few healthy habits, a little bit of room for fun, and you really get further by doing this rather than doing an all or nothing approach. This approach has honestly been key in my recovery, as well as fixing my gut health and my energy and just food freedom overall. So hopefully these tips will help you guys. Again, like I said, counting calories is not bad for everybody. It's just a personal preference that I have. but everybody is different and everyone's relationship with food is different. So please respect each other even in the comments. Let me know if this video was helpful and give it a thumbs up if you liked it. Be sure to subscribe if you haven't already. I upload 2 times per week, and don't forget to hit the notification bell to be notified every time I post a video. Also, if you want to see how I put this whole system into practice, then check out my What I Eat in a Days. I will link some in the description box below, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye!